All right, so we've talked about this before, but one of the greatest things about this hobby, the Pokemon card collecting space, is that there is just so many different avenues that you can take. We've had the opportunity to collect Pokemon cards for what, 27 years, 28 years? It's been a very, very long time, and throughout those years, we talked last week about different gimmicks that have come out. We're going to talk about the tag team gimmick in this video, but I'm really curious. So if you can just pause the video or just let it run and leave a comment down below. What does your decision-making process look like when it comes to collecting Pokemon cards? What is it that kind of drives you to certain Pokemon cards? Like for me, I'm a huge fan of collecting master sets. Master sets is something that I've just done for a very long time. I just love the idea of master sets. I love the way that they look in a binder. But additionally, I really enjoy trophy cards. I really enjoy cards that tell a story, cards that have specific artworks, cards that lately, like some of the cards that are like combined arts, like those are absolutely stunning to me. So there's a lot of different things that I really like to collect. And the great thing about Pokemon is that there are so many different avenues, so many different niches. You could be somebody who likes foreign cards, Japanese, simplified Chinese, somebody who's really into promo cards, somebody who just focuses on artwork or just focuses on certain Pokedex numbers, and you just chase specific Pokemon cards. I know people who collect one of every single Pokemon card, and they just have a binder full of all 1,000 plus Pokemon, and they change out certain cards if there's an artwork that they start preferring more. If there's an artwork that maybe they didn't know about, or an artwork that comes out down the road, they just want a true Pokedex that goes 1 through 1,000, whatever it is, and they collect cards related to that. So let me know in the comment section down below what drives you to collecting Pokemon. And the reason I ask is because I'm reading this book. I'm trying to get better, right? So I'm reading this book about finding your audience, capturing your audience, and knowing your audience. And I'm trying to think. I'm sitting here thinking, okay, well, what is my audience? What is my audience like? What is the community like? What do I like to talk about with my community? And really, it just kind of boils down to collecting Pokemon cards. And there's people who are, well, it could be investing in Pokemon cards, it could be, but the real answer is just collecting Pokemon cards. You can start out with nothing. You can start out with no Pokemon cards whatsoever, and that's the beauty of this. And you can build up a very solid collection over years without spending that much money, as long as you're making smart decisions when it comes to spending your collection dollars and taking advantage of trading, taking advantage of different pieces of the market. Like you can spend a very small portion of money right now, even if you don't have that many Pokemon cards, and watch it grow over time. And that's why there's a huge fine line between investing and collecting, because there are so many different opportunities to grow your collection throughout the course of however many years you're involved in Pokemon, which could be infinite. You know, it could be forever. And that's one of the things that I really love about Pokemon. But another thing I love about Pokemon is the gimmicks that they provide. And we talked last week about some different gimmicks, and the one that we're going to talk about today is tag teams. And this is one that I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time now. There's a lot of really great tag teams. I love the whole gimmick behind tag team, and I pulled up a few fun facts for you guys. So we're going to flip you guys around so you can see exactly what it is that I'm talking about here. But here we go. So we're talking about tag teams. Tag teams were such a fun era during the Sun and Moon block, and they didn't come out until really the end of Sun and Moon. Tag teams started in the team up set and then continued for the next 4 sets, and then all of a sudden we hit Sword and Shield and they just stopped. And I would love Pokemon, if you're watching this video, I think the idea of tag teams is fantastic and should come back for the end of Scarlet and Violet. I think we've got a lot more Pokemon. I think there's a lot of Pokemon we didn't do. I think your addition of supporters down the road, that made it great also. Like I think tag teams deserve another run. So I put some fun facts for you here regarding tag teams, with the exception of the tag team cards originating from the Japanese Dream League subset. All regular Pokemon cards, all regular Pokemon tag team cards feature artwork by Mitsuhiro Arita, which is very, very interesting to me. Like all of the regular arts are thanks to Arita, all the artworks, which is absolutely fantastic. Work on the tag team mechanic, and this gives you some idea when we talked about forecasting in Friday's video, forecasting how long in advance Pokemon has to go into the set design. Like it's absolutely crazy. Work on the tag team mechanic began during the black and white era. A lot of people weren't even around in the black and white era and maybe came back because of tag teams. But you're looking at tag teams being released in the back half of Sun and Moon, the last 4 sets of Sun and Moon. That means work began during the black and white era, XY gen, the entire XY generation wasn't even released. So you're skipping over the entire XY generation, then skipping over the first 8 sets or so of Sun and Moon before tag teams finally came to fruition. And Arita has also stated, this was in an interview, stated that more than 100 different combinations of Pokemon were considered for tag team Pokemon GX cards. So 100 different combinations is absolutely insane. There's a lot of tag teams that we got and a lot of tag teams that we didn't get. Obviously, we got some duplicates as well. We got Reshiram and Charizard, but we also got Charizard and Braixen. We missed out on a lot of potential when it comes to tag teams, and now we've had a whole nother generation that has released, which is insane to think about. So I would love the idea, and you can let me know in the comment section down below if you want tag teams to come back as well. But one of the best things about tag teams is that there are a lot of them that are all over the place as far as pricing goes. A lot of them that will fit in your budget. Yeah, there's some that are probably a little bit too expensive, and that's important, that's worth noting. But there's a lot of them. If you want to start collecting tag teams today, there's a lot of regular arts that are still available at single-digit pricing or very, very low in the double-digit spectrum. Like, there's a lot of opportunity for collecting tag teams. And since they were ran during that back half of Sun and Moon, so only 4 sets, there's not a huge plethora of sets that you really need to conquer in order to collect some of these. So we're going to start out looking at the Gengar and Mimikyu, and then we're going to go through about 15 or so that have done really well. Tag teams have really done extremely well, partially because those back half of Sun and Moon sets have really seen a huge hype over the past year or so. We're talking about Cosmic Eclipse, we're talking about Unbroken Bonds, Unified Minds, and obviously Team Up here, but we're looking at the Gengar and Mimikyu to start. Very cool cards. Even the regular arts tell a story. The artworks are just absolutely phenomenal, but you can see in January of 2023, this card was sitting at a 1-year low of $26.71, and you're seeing an $11 price hike, which is almost 40% over the course of a year, sitting at $36.15 currently, which is just off of its 1-year high, which it hit in December of 2023, where it jumped up to $37.62. Now, it did increase very, very rapidly. Basically, from February of 2023, that's when tag teams in general really started taking off over the course of like a 3-month stretch. You saw it happen with a lot of alternate arts. It went nuts, and by June, it was up to that, almost up to that 1-year high, but then it backed off a little bit, stayed relatively consistent throughout the rest of the year, and then this Gengar and Mimikyu in specific started spiking a little bit more in November of 2023, which is very, very interesting. Here's the Reshiram and Zekrom. We were talking about duplicates before. This is just a full art version of the card. There is no alternate art of Reshiram and Zekrom. A lot of people get confused because it looks so good, right? It looks so good, but there was not a full art or an alternate art variant of this card. But we talked about duplicates before, Reshiram and Charizard, also Reshiram and Zekrom. Zekrom and Reshiram got a tag team. This is a very, very stunning looking card. Absolutely lovely. In January of 2023, this full art was sitting at $57.31. It over doubled in price over the course of a year. You can see it steadily growing all the way up until June, and then really starting to take off. And then in September of 2023, hit that 1-year high of 123.01. It has backed off a little bit, so it's sitting at 93.25 now. And this is really why you really want to start building like a good understanding of what budget you want to spend when it comes to your collection dollars, because as some of these start coming back down a little bit and correcting themselves in the market, now might be the time to start paying attention to what price point you are comfortable paying to add these pieces to your collection. Here's the Solgaleo and Lunala. This is probably my favorite of all the tag teams. I love the artwork on this. Again, not an alternate art, just a normal full art, and that's what makes it so special. You've got Lily in the front there, obviously Solgaleo and Lunala, the champions of the Sun and Moon era. Very cool looking card. In January of 2023, this was a $66.10 card, which is still relatively expensive, but when you look at what it did after that, you can see it tripled in price at one point in September of 2023. It was all the way up to $188.50. Just saw insane growth, and again, a lot of that growth happening in May, June, where it just really jumped up. A lot of hype behind tag teams, and now it has backed off quite a bit. Now it's lost quite a bit of it. It's still up over double where it was at the beginning of January 2023, but it has lost about $60 in value, which is actually really good, making it more opportunistic for people who want the opportunity to buy some of these tag team cards, sitting at $132.85 currently. But again, another card that maybe maybe you want to keep an eye on as we move forward. Magikarp and Wailord with its Towering Splash GX attack. I recorded a short on this one because it's an absolute iconic moment in Pokemon trading card game history. I loved it. And this one sitting relatively at a 1-year low right now, which is really cool. The Magikarp and Wailord GX was only available in a Towering Splash collection box. It did not have a regular art. In the team up set where Magikarp and Wailord full art and alternate art were released, there was no regular art of Magikarp and Wailord. You can see in April of 2023, this was sitting at a 1-year low of $13.79. Saw rapid growth like a lot of these other ones, jumped all the way up to $22.92. But now it has dropped all the way back down basically to where it was over a year ago. It's sitting at $14.41 currently, and really starting to level off now. Pikachu and Zekrom, this is such a fun card right here. It was such a big thing in competitive play. Teamed up with Zeraora GX, with Jolteon GX. It did really, really well at a lot of competitive events, but there was a lot of copies available for the regular art. The full art did not have as many copies available. You can see in January of 2023, this was sitting at $23.66, so not too bad. It did almost double in price over the next 8 months or so. This was a little bit different because it did grow pretty much the entirety of 2023. You can see in October is where it hit that 1-year high of $45.21. Now it's lost about half of what it's gained, so it's sitting in between its 1-year high and 1-year low at $35.39. This is from the team up set. Beautiful looking card. Pikachu and Zekrom. Zekrom, another one obviously that saw duplicates when it comes to tag teams. Had a tag team with Reshiram and then also with Pikachu. Here's that Charizard and Braixen that we were talking about before. This is the Rainbow Rare right here. This one has come down quite a bit over the last few months. It's actually sitting at a 1-year low currently. You can see in January of 2023 it was right around $92. Did not see the hype that a lot of other tag teams did see. So Charizard not getting as much love as some of the other ones, probably because it was already a fairly expensive card, but didn't see the growth. And now you can see some of those other tag teams much more expensive than this one. Jumped up about 15% over the course of 3 months or so. In June of 2023, it was sitting right around that 1-year high of 102.25 and stayed consistent over the next 4 or 5 months. But now it has been falling very rapidly over the past few months. It's dropped down to $89.29, so it's lost about 14% of its value over the past couple of months, and it's continuing to trend in the downward direction. So definitely one that you want to keep your eye on. Here's the Gengar and Mimikyu, the Rainbow Rare. This one nuts, like Gengar and Mimikyu. Gengar is just a beast of a Pokemon. We recorded a video on that last week. Gengar is just a different breed because it is such a popular Pokemon, and because there aren't as many releases of Gengar as a fan favorite like Charizard, like Eevee. Because of that, a lot of Gengars just historically do extremely well. You can see in January of 2023, this card was sitting at $66.96, which is already a little bit expensive as a Rainbow. Now that they're not doing Rainbow Rares anymore, and this one as a tag team Rainbow Rare, it has just taken off like crazy. It's jumped all the way up. It hit $110.66 at the beginning of January. It's lost a little bit of that, but still sitting at $106.81 and continuing to climb. Here's the Garchomp and Giratina, a very cool tag team. In January of 2023, this was sitting at $31.93. Saw rapid growth right away, gained about 30% over the course of 4 or 5 months, and then leveled out quite a bit. You can see in June it hit that $39 mark and then pretty much stayed at that point all the way up until November, and then it started going up a little bit, so it hit $39.90. That was the 1-year high for this card. It's sitting at $39.73 currently, but basically very consistent over the past 6 or 7 months, which is important to note because a lot of the Pokemon market in general has seen a giant decrease over the last 6 months. So it's very interesting to see some of these tag teams continue to perform well. Not all of them, and that's why it's important to look at some of these cards that you might want, but some of them doing extremely well in the market that is going in the opposite direction. Here's the Latios and Latios GX. This is the Rainbow Rare variant. Obviously, there's a full art variant and an alternate art variant, as well as a regular art variant. Not a whole lot of attention gets paid to the Rainbow Rare, but the Rainbow Rare did extremely well over the past year. You can see relatively flat and didn't start its ascent until a little bit later. In June is where it really started taking off, but it's $56 or $35.34. 1-year low was in January. Only rose a few dollars up until June, and that's where it really took off. Spent a few months where it went up about 40% in price, and you can see it hit $59.56 in September. Now it's stayed pretty consistent since then over the last 4 months. It's sitting at $56.28 currently. And then we've got the full art version of Latias and Latios, which also similar graph, but started its ascent a little bit sooner. You can see in April of 2023 is really when it started taking off. February, it was at its 1-year low of $16.25, and then it spent about 6 months growing growing like crazy. Jumped up to $29.17. Again, about 45% growth over the course of 4 months or so. Now it's leveled off a little bit. It's sitting at $27.38 currently, but another one to keep an eye out. And then we've got the Blastoise and Piplup. This one is actually down quite a bit from where it was several years ago. This one came out in Cosmic Eclipse. I remember when it was first released, a lot of people paid attention to the Blastoise GX Rainbow Rare from Unbroken, I think it was Unbroken Bonds. And then you've got the Blastoise and Piplup GX. This one was a little bit more expensive, but you can see in January of 2023, this card was all the way down to $38.93 and just kind of started growing quite a bit and pretty much grew the entirety of the year all the way up until around September. That's where it hit that 1 year high of $54.27. Now it's backed off a little bit at $51.53, but you're not seeing the descent that we saw in some of these other tag team cards that we just looked at. Here's the full art version of Blastoise and Piplup, a similar graph. In January of 2023, this was sitting at $16.59, started growing quite a bit. In July, it hit that 1 year high of $22.62. Now it's backed off a little bit, sitting at $20.84 currently. Here's the Muck in a Alolan Mug. This is a really cool card. The Alternator is also really cool. These are also relatively inexpensive, which makes them really, really cool if it's something that you want to add to your collection. In January of 2023, this was at a $4.70 price tag. You can see rapid growth all the way up until September, where it almost doubled in price, and then it continued to climb after that. So you don't see the dip that we saw in some of these other tag teams. It's actually continued to climb, and it's sitting at a 1 year high right now of $8.81. Then we've got the Marshadow and Machamp. This one kind of also doing the same thing. You don't really see a dip on this one. January of 2023, this was sitting at $7.71. Not bad for a full art of its age. This one came out in Unbroken Bonds. Saw some slower growth up until September, and then rapid growth right after that. Jumped all the way up until $17.75. That was in September. Now it's backed off a little bit, but still sitting at $17.21. Very consistent over the last few months. Here's the full art variant of Reshiram and Charizard. This one has come back to earth quite a bit. Not a whole lot of growth on this one overall. $28.31 was its low point in January. Saw some decent growth when the other tag teams were really starting to take off. Jumped up to $38.31, but now it's lost over half of its value. So it's dropped all the way back down to $33.68, right in between its 1 year high and 1 year low. Definitely one to keep an eye out as we move forward. But you can see a lot of tag teams, and we didn't even cover a lot of the regular arts. There's a lot of them out there that if you're looking at collecting gimmicks or collecting cards that there might not be as many of, and tag teams might have been on your radar, but you've seen videos about how expensive they've gotten and things like that. Outside of the alternate arts, there's a lot of them that are relatively affordable, which is really cool. Definitely part of the gimmicks that I do hope Pokemon brings back, and you can let me know in the comment section down below if you think Pokemon should do something with tag teams again in the future. Obviously, they did it with supporters as well, which is a whole nother story for a different video, but I love the gimmick. I love the idea. It was very, very cool. There were so many different ideas that Pokemon had when it came to the tag team. They tried to figure out the prizing structure and things like that. They ultimately ended up on your opponent gets 3 prizes when one gets knocked out. Originally, they thought maybe they should do 4 prizes. They considered doing 2 GX attacks in a game instead of just 1. Very interesting stuff to kind of learn about. I hope you enjoy the content. If you do, please hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment. You know the drill. You guys are awesome. I love you. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Until next time, peace.